Our ecosystems are fast deteriorating, a problem we need to fix before it is too late. To combat this crisis, the United Nations has proclaimed 2021 to 2030 as the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. It is a rallying call to protect and restore our land. It's a call that everyone needs to answer. Governments, researchers, indigenous people, local communities, women, children, the young and the old alike. We must restore every type of degraded land and ecosystems across the continents. The Land Restoration Challenge is one of the restoration challenges under the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. It is led by the G20 Global Land Initiative and the UNCCD. The goals of the Land Restoration Challenge are based on global commitments. Achieve land degradation neutrality by 2030. Ensure that 30% of degraded ecosystems are under restoration by 2030. And reduce 50% of degraded land by 2040. Achieving these objectives is easy, explains Muralee Thummarukudy, Director of the G20 Global Initiative on Land's Coordination Office in Bonn, Germany.
Of the various restoration challenges we have, I feel the restoration challenge for land, in a way, is the easiest. Because over the last 10 years, member states have committed over 1 billion hectares of land for restoration. These commitments were made under the Bonn Challenge, up to 350 million hectares. Under the UN Convention to Combat Desertification, around 600 million hectares of land. Under Convention for Biological Diversity, under UNFCCC, and also numerous other regional and national commitments. So the commitment is there.
But despite these commitments, the track record of land restoration is not impressive in many countries.
Based upon our analysis, we think there are 5 reasons. Number 1, the challenge of regulation. International commitments are good, but not good enough. Only when it is translated into a national legislation and hence into a national program, then the commitment gets translated into programs and projects. Restoration happens. Clearly, there are not enough countries in the world now which has a national law, a framework law on restoration. This has to change. Number 2 is the challenge of finance. If we were to take the median cost, then 1 billion hectare restoration translates to $1.5 trillion. This money is really not available at this point for restoration. Nor is it going to come only from the government sources, not from CSR funds, not from donor grants. Clearly, private sector investment has to come, and that will come when restoration becomes an effective, profitable business activity. And therein comes the third challenge. Right now, there are no large-scale restoration business activity. Restoration is still a cottage industry. Number 4 is the human resources. As the restoration industry takes off, and I'm sure it is going to take off, all the stars are now aligned. The restoration commitment is there. Finances are coming from climate financing, biodiversity financing, CSR funding, and also private funding. We need to hardwire the entire restoration concept into agriculture. Agriculture for restoration, forestry for restoration, mining factoring in restoration. This is our next challenge. We need 1 million graduates. We need every graduate who come out of the agricultural universities, every graduate who come out of forestry institutions, every graduate who come out of mining institute to understand restoration as part of their core skills. And finally, And most importantly, there's a question of land tenure. Land is close to people's heart. Land is part of their identity. But how people take care of land depend upon how strong is the ownership. We know when the land tenure is not strong or the tenure doesn't exist, people look for short-term gains from the land, which is focused on production, not on restoration. The restoration activity has to scale up. There has to be better tenure. There probably needs an entirely new type of tenure, like a restoration concession or something like that.
To achieve these ambitious goals, partnerships are crucial. Partnerships with businesses, investors, communities, and other ongoing restoration projects. But the most important thing is to create a restoration generation, a generation that understands and cares about restoration.
In my opinion, we need a nature lab in every school. A nature lab which will train the children to understand their land, their soil, their biodiversity, their air, their weather, their climate. And as a part of such a nature lab, where the entire school campus is a learning laboratory, we can create a corner of the school into a plot of restoration. And that can be calibrated to the local situation. In the middle of an African desert, it could be about how do we prevent the area becoming a desert. In a place where soil erosion is a big place, such as in Nepal, it could be about preventing soil erosion. So when we have every billion students who are currently in schools trained to see the land around them as an integral part of their education process, then we create generation restoration.
The G20 Land Initiative is planning to train 1,000 ecopreneurs on land restoration, reach 1,000 universities with a land restoration curricula, and organize annual events for parliamentarians to achieve these targets. Together, we can restore and protect our land. Join us in this critical mission for a better, greener future. The time to act is now.